So the New Orleans Pelicans made a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies a couple days before the draft, and I think it ended up being overshadowed by the Westbrook trade and all the other stuff that happened on draft night. And yeah, they gave up a lot. They moved down significantly twice in the draft, as well as giving up a future protected first from the Lakers, which would be like a later lottery pick, but it's left over from the Davis trade. But what it did for them was kind of fix their errors. They got, I don't know if it was the same trade, but they basically ended up getting rid of Drew Holiday for I think like a one, and like Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, which just were not good fits with the young core, especially Steven Adams clogging the paint when Zion is a super efficient scorer in the paint. So they got rid of those two in the trade, moved down a couple spots, gave up the one, and they got back Jonas Valanciunas and about 20 million in cap room, which everybody kind of thought at the time that they were either going to use it to uh, either re-sign Lonzo or trade for big point guard, but they ended up doing the deal with Chicago for Lonzo, which the NBA is investigating because of I think tampering rules. But anyway, that's besides the point. They ended up using some of that money to sign the Pelicans point guard Devonta Graham, and I think at the end of the day, Devonta Graham and Jonas Valanciunas are significantly better fits in that offense, and I do think David Griffin is at the end of the day a good GM. The Davis trade was good. He made some pretty good decisions before he was in New Orleans, and I like what they're doing with their coaching staff. They brought in the assistant coach from the Suns, who's supposed to be a good coach, and then I think their top assistant is going to be D'Antoni. So I think they're moving the right way offensively. Their offense projects to be pretty explosive when you look at what their starting lineup could look like with Devonta Graham, Ingram, Zion, uh, and Jonas Valanciunas, and then insert shooting guard. I think they're currently negotiating with um, Josh Hart. They also drafted a shooting guard. They have the backup point guard that they've had for a while, who is in the same draft class as Zion. I'm blanking on the name. Oh, Nikhil Alexander-Walker. They have the whole issue with Jackson Hayes right now, which he might just end up being a bust. But I do think that offense is going to look significantly better than it did last year, and I think they're kind of being slept on because the West is so loaded. But Valanciunas is such an underrated player when he's healthy, and he's usually healthy. He was really underutilized in Memphis. They would never play him like 30 minutes a game, but he always put up really good numbers. He's an efficient scorer. He spreads the floor. He plays good defense. He rebounds and defends in the post well. I think he's going to work really well with Zion because he's also an efficient paint scorer, but he can do things outside of just clogging the paint like Steven Adams did, and he still brings some of the defense and toughness that Adams had. And kind of the trickle down effect, even though they lost Lonzo, and that's going to hurt them defensively. These moves will hurt them defensively, but I think the offensive upside is so significant that it is still a positive for the organization. And they lost draft capital. They ended up picking, I think, the guard um, Trey Murphy the third, and I know that a lot of people wanted them to target Moody, and from what I've heard about Trey Murphy the third is he's a poor man's Moses Moody, so that did hurt them. But at the end of the day, I do think they're going to be a pretty solid team with an explosive offense, and Devonta Graham and Jonas Valanciunas are significantly better fits with the young core they have. And at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is build around Ingram and Zion. They extended Ingram. They're hoping to extend Zion. We'll see if he wants to stay in New Orleans. But this is definitely a step in the right direction because last offseason, when they made those moves, they just did not go where they wanted to go, and their coach got fired, and Griffin had to fight for his job, and there was just a lot of bad decisions after the Davis trade, including in draft picks that didn't pan out, like Jackson Hayes so far. So yeah, it helped them cap wise. They lost draft capital, but they ended up getting a couple of really good players that could really help them offensively. And I just think Jonas Valanciunas is just super underrated, and Devonta Graham can score as long as he's paired up with a guard like Josh Hart who can defend and rebound. So yeah, I do think that's going to be a much improved team if they can get it together with a new coach. I think D'Antoni will help with that. If they can put it together, stay healthy, they could be a sleeper team in the West. But I'm not going to pick them to finish top three in the West or be a genuine contender in the playoffs. But if they make the playoffs and win a couple games, that's definitely a step in the right direction. Because what you don't want to see if you're a Pelicans fan is an Anthony Davis 2.0 situation where Anthony Davis, in this case Zion, uh, doesn't even sign the initial extension, and he wants a trade, and players are demanding trades now multiple years before their last year of their deal. So he could sign an extension and demand a sign and trade, or they could just end up trying to retool again by trading him for assets. So yeah, I think overall really good positive for their organization, and I think that they're going to be significantly more successful this season after a strong offseason that kind of righted the wrongs of last offseason.